In this video, I am going to discuss about lathe. The inventor of lathe is Henry Maudslay. He was actually graduated from University College London. So there was a beautiful evaluation of this lathe, and nowadays we use CNC lathe where we do programming and accordingly the removal of material will happen. So normally a lathe is nothing but to remove an excess amount of material from your work where the workpiece will be clamped in a chuck and it will be rotated by using a motor, and the tool will be clamped in the tool post, which will be a stationary one. So by moving your tool towards your workpiece, the machining happens. So this is the process how the material will be removed in the case of lathe. So there are many different components in lathe. So you can see this. So you have a headstock, a tailstock, and a tool post which is in between. So what is headstock here is, headstock will have the chuck, so in which you can clamp your workpiece, and tailstock will have a dead center. So the dead centers, it is for multiple purposes, where if you have a lengthier object to hold that work just not to get deflected, you use this dead center. And you can also replace this dead center by using some other drill tools or boring tool, so that you can also do those processes in this lathe itself. The next you have your tool post where your tool will be fixed. So these are all the basic things about your lathe. So bottom of your entire thing you have your bed where it supports all the major components, and there is a carriage which slides along the way, and it consists of a cross slide, tool post and apron. So as I told you, there is a headstock which is much more important, where you can set what is the speed of rotation of your chuck, because you will be holding your work in the chuck. And as I told you, tailstock is for supporting your workpiece. For moving these tailstocks and headstock, so headstock is fixed, but you can move this carriage and your tailstock. You have your feed rod and lead screw. So this is also available in your lathe. So we can do multiple processes in lathe, where phasing, it is nothing but reducing the size during turning. Taper turning is nothing but turning with an inclined path of the tool. Contour turning is nothing but the tool follows contour path rather straight. The next one is form turning, where uses a form tool of exact shape whatever it is required or replicated in your work. It is like a replica. And chamfering, it is to avoid sharp corners. And cut off, it is used to parting the work. And threading, it is for creating threads by using this turning process. Boring is to increase the hole diameter. Drilling is to put a hole in your work, and knurling is to create a knurling for better handling of your work. So these are all the processes which can be done in your lathe. So there are many different types of lathes available. The first one is engine lathe or center lathe, which is the most common type of lathe, and you can see this in most of the workshops. Bench lathes are very smaller lathes which is actually mounted in a small workbench. Some precise components if you want to do, you can use by doing with bench lathe. And speed lathe, with the name itself you can tell, like it can operate at very high speed, so the rotation speed of your spindle will be very high. And the next one is your tool room lathe. So it is similar to that of your engine lathe, but it is designed for higher amount of accuracy. So very precise components can be made by using this tool room lathe. And special purpose lathes which have like gap lathe, instrument lathe, phasing lathe, flow turning lathe, heavy duty lathe. There are many different types of special purpose lathes which are actually not readily available, but it can be modified according to the need. Automatic lathe is nothing but completely your feeding mechanism it will be automated, and you can remove your labor who is working on the lathe. Turret lathe, where you have a turret In this case, you don't have any tailstock, it is replaced by your turret slide. So I'll be discussing about the turret lathe in the next slide. And the final one is your capstan lathe. So these are all the different types of lathes which are available. So as specified, so I am going to discuss about the turret lathes. Turret lathes are relatively more robust and heavy duty machines. So here the work on chucking type jobs held in the quick acting chucks. So you can see that there is a square turret in this figure where multiple tools can be fixed in this turret head. So in turret lathes, external threads are generally cut. If required by a single point or a multi-point tool, it can be mounted on a front slide and moved by your short lead screw. So, but other than these things, it is somewhat similar to that of your general lathe. So this is the basics about your lathe and the functions how this lathe works. So in later videos, we will be discussing about all other different types of machining process. Thank you.